welcome everyone to today's role model talk. I will at some point probably say mole model because that's just the way that it happens. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, you guys, especially with like how warm it is at the moment. Um, as I said earlier, but in case some of you weren't here, we can't see or hear you because this is like a webinar. So you'll feel free to essentially do what you want and just have us on in the background. You can also write things in the chat or the kind of Q&A area. If it helps you as well, you can turn captions on. There should be a thing somewhere, depending on what you're watching, like at the bottom or on the side. And that should help if you need to like just have the words on the screen. In case you don't know me, I'm Mivy. I'm one of the facilitators at Uncommon. I run some of the sessions like Roblox, Minecraft, Video Club, and more. I have ADHD and was diagnosed a couple of years ago while I was at uni. So like a lot of you, I'm on my own journey. And it's been so great to like hear from other people who are also on their own journeys and of course about yourselves as well. So that essentially brings us to what we're talking about today. These role model webinars are designed to showcase lots of different people from different backgrounds who have probably overcome some challenges and also hopefully found some passions. And of course, a lot of us are still learning, but it's so great to kind of see where people are at the moment. It's also a great way to get inspired and see that everybody, no matter your path, you can find some kind of like somewhere where you feel like you belong. So that brings us to our role model for today. Elliot, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Elliot. You might see me in the community in Uncommon. I do kind of some community management stuff behind the scenes. I also facilitate in a few sessions, so you might have seen me around. Hello. Nice to see you again, if so. I'm a game designer, so I design and make video games. I've been known to. Yeah, I went to university. I graduated from undergrad in computer games technology with a pretty decent grade. And I'm currently studying a master's in much the same thing.
Awesome. What sort of games do you want to work on or are you working on at the moment? Like what sort of genres and stuff?
That's tricky. I just kind of love games in general. My favorite type of games are roguelike games. And I know quite a bit about them. I've written some papers on them. And they're just games that like basically designed to be like replayed all the time. And they're all about like random generation and like emergent gameplay that happens when you like multiple different systems interact with each other at once. That isn't like necessarily pre-planned. So those are my favorite types of games, but I kind of love all games. And I've worked on like on a big range of them, but a lot of them tend to be kind of like story focused because I'm quite I really like narratives and story. It's kind of my thing.
A storyteller.
Storyteller.
So to get into it, can you share what it was like for you growing up as a neurodivergent person?
Hmm. Um, well, I've always found it like really easy to just like lose myself in things. I'm interested and passionate about a lot of different things, and I've always just kind of like I've always was like kind of like in my own little world, thinking about whatever I was into at the time. Um, I've always been able to think about things in like a unique way and like come to something with a unique perspective. With that, like I've always been very creative, like I'm always like coming up, like even as a kid, I was always like coming up with different games and different rules that everybody had to play by. And if they didn't do it properly, I was like, oh. Yeah, and I've always loved games. I've always loved games. Games just it's the perfect way to express your creativity in a way that is kind of like structured and has rules and makes sense, and that's what I love about them.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've always been drawn to games as well because it is such a good way of just being able to experiment and also go on a journey and it, like
Yeah,
with films and stuff as well, it always feels like you're making some sort of friends along the way.
yeah.
So kind of going off that, what were some things you found you were really good at when you were younger?
Hmm. So I've always been very good at like analyzing things and like picking it apart. Um, like for example, in movies and stuff. If I watch a movie, I find that like I can like somewhat like pretty good actually like 60-70% of the time I can kind of like tell what's going to happen based off of like for example if somebody if you see a scene in a movie and somebody's like crossing a road usually it means that someone's going to get hit by a car, sorry. But
Look both ways.
it's because I think like you don't see not important stuff on screen. And so I like that's just one example, but it goes a lot of different ways. I've always been very good at assessing things and analyzing them and being able to like see things like down to the minute sort of detail. Um, with that, I've always been like pretty quick to pick things up. Some things I get into, like when I first get into something, it can be a bit of a challenge, like uh getting used to like just the basics of something. But as soon as I'm going with something, I tend to like learn very very quickly. I already mentioned a little bit before, but I'm pretty good and always have been at like problem solving. Because my brain is wired a little bit differently. I tend to come up with unique solutions to things. And yeah, I've always found it. I've always been surrounded by a lot of different people. I found like making friends not easy, but it comes like more naturally to me than a lot of other people, I think.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with films, it's like a language and there's like a pattern to it. I mentioned to you last time we
Mm.
talked about this that like there was a horror film that I was watching and there was no romance plot whatsoever. And then just as a joke, I was like, they're gonna fall in love.
Yeah.
And then they kissed at the end and everybody was like, whoa! And I'm still fully riding that high. Like I've never been so like mystical in my life to
Yeah.
people. It's yeah,
The
it's one of
sage.
exactly. It's one of my favorite things to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
tropes. It's just tropes, right? Because they all follow like the same sort of like structure. And as soon as you kind of have that like in your head, you can see it everywhere. You can see where everything's gonna go.
exactly, exactly. So you've spoken about like what you were good at. You've spoken about kind of like how you made friends, and we'll go into that a
Hmm.
bit more. But when was there a time when you started to feel like proud of being neurodivergent?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I should mention, I probably should mention at the start. I have ADHD. I was recently diagnosed like just about 2 years ago, similar to Mivy. Um, and I'm currently like seeking a diagnosis in autism. Um, uh, yeah, so I was somewhat resistant because people had told me for like a while that I might want to pursue a diagnosis. Just people have made comments in the past and stuff, and I was always like very resistant to it at first. Um, I had this idea that like that I wanted to like fit in, you know, like I wanted to everybody to see me as like normal, and that was really really important to me for a really long time. Um, and yeah, it motivated me for a long time, and so I didn't want to accept that because it felt like I was like othering myself from people. But even though it was really really important to me and I held on to it for a long time, it made me absolutely miserable. Trying to pretend to be someone you're not is not it. It isn't. Unfortunately. And so it was really that like the people that sort of like gravitated towards me and like who also turned out to be neurodivergent,
Mm.
as that seems to be a common trait, like they kind of like gravitate towards each other.
Facts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. They those people really liked those parts of myself that I considered to be that I was trying to like mask or hide. And it was through meeting people like that that I then like came to accept myself. And
Mm.
I'm forever grateful for them because I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And it's all because I noticed the things that about myself that I think are really really cool. Like all of those qualities that I mentioned earlier. Like I mean, it's hard to separate neurodivergency from like yourself. I think that you're basically the same thing. You are who you are. Your brain is the way it is.
Hmm.
But now I see all of those things as amazing things. And yeah, it was a bit of a journey. I kind of it was the people around me, and then like seeing like neurodivergent like content creators and stuff, like seeing what they sharing their experiences. Then I was like, oh yeah, no, I actually resonate a lot with the kind of the stuff they're saying. And then yeah, now my ultimate goal is just to unashamedly be who I am, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like it's so easy to have like a negative opinion about
Mm.
kind of a label. But for me, they've especially been like sort of a shorthand, like telling people about myself in some sort of way, or like if there's something that I find difficult, or just trying to find out other people's experiences. Having a label helps kind of shortcut my way into finding things out rather than like going into Google and typing some long thing being like, hello, does other people do this?
Yeah.
And Google will be like, I don't know. Yeah, so kind of going deeper into that, how did embracing your differences kind of help you feel better about yourself and learn about yourself?
Well, yeah, stuff like things like, allowing myself to like stim in public, and uh uh not like reeling it back. When I get like really into a conversation, I'll get like very energetic, and like I could be quite extra, like my
Hmm.
voice tends to go high pitch, and um uh and a lot of those attributes about myself, and just like things I was into and stuff like that, I would like keep preserved. But embracing those things, um just the more I let that out into the world, the more I attracted people on like the same wavelength as me,
Hmm.
and like the better my like quality of life got, because suddenly I was now advertising sounds weird, but I was like advertising myself to like the right people, because people who maybe would be put off by those parts of me, I don't want around anyway,
Hmm.
um so yeah, it was uh yeah, it made me feel better about myself because I was around other people that made me feel included and wanted and good. um and yeah, I feel like all of those aspects of myself that I was trying to like suppress are the most interesting parts about me. It's what makes me cool. Um, yeah, yeah, and then as soon as that started to happen, I kind of just made more of an effort to make myself more comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah, I think something that will be brought up a lot during this is kind of like learning to listen to yourself, and
Mm,
that really speaks to like finding your comfort levels, and
mm,
like it's an indicator of whether you're in the right space.
mm,
Um, but I feel like it is difficult because it's a learning curve. It's
mm.
it comes from experience and like exercising some sort of like muscle to like
Yeah.
build that kind of tolerance to stuff like that. So I would love to kind of know, maybe what would you say to some people who are still feeling kind of different, struggling to fit in, and kind of like any advice that you might have.
I think um it's kind of hard because, as I said before, it was something that like motivated me for like a really long time, was like trying to fit in. And it still does to some extent. Like sometimes I'll be in situations like a party or something like that, and I'll say something, or I'll like laugh at like a joke someone's made or something like that, and then I'll have this moment where I'm like, I don't agree with that at all.
Mm.
Like who is this person who is acting on my behalf?
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Um, uh, and like it took me a while to get to that point as well, where I could like catch myself when I was going off, because for a while for a long time I like masked like to like everyone, like kind of all the time, and it
Hmm.
got hard to remember who I kind of was underneath that. And I didn't really I didn't have the best understanding of that. Um uh but if you pay attention to if you learn to recognize signs of like when you're being authentic and when you're not, like how do you feel in certain situations, um I think it's important to catch yourself in those moments, you know. Um, that being said, uh, I think that like the biggest thing, I think it is important to want to feel accepted. I mean, like we're social creatures, like that's what we're built for. Our brains are built to want that.
Yeah.
Um, but the main thing is choosing where you want to feel accepted and fit in, you know, because you don't actually want to fit in every situation you're in, because some situations you're in are not great. um, uh, so yeah, not every social setting is a good place for you to be, and so you don't need to. It's really hard to just not because it doesn't come like naturally to people, but um in reality, you only really want to fit in places that are good for you. Um, I think that finding and building a group where you feel accepted is like the most important part
Hmm.
to fitting in. Like if there isn't a space around you like that where that makes you feel that, then working towards making one for yourself is really important. And then like if you're struggling with um am I being like my authentic self in situations you don't really know? I just try and always like something that I do all the time now is I try and make sure that I'm comfortable in every situation I'm in. As soon as I start to feel uncomfortable, I will like be like, why am I feeling uncomfortable right now? Why does this kind of feel off? And I will like try and present myself or like do things that make myself as comfortable in the space as I can.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like it's tricky to in some ways like push yourself and then also have a balance where you make sure that you still feel safe,
Hmm.
and again also comfortable and feel like you can be yourself.
Mm.
And I also still kind of am learning how to do that, and I feel like you too at the same time. Yeah, it's I think again it's listening to your body. It's sometimes if you can find like a safe person,
Hmm.
and then you can kind of be with them and slowly kind of like push yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
By not by pushing, I don't mean like, like pushing yourself. I mean like letting a little bit more of your aura shine out in
Yeah,
some sort
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill again to kind
Mm,
of learn. But when we've spoken about this before, it's
mm,
also kind of like sometimes it's noticing what some people do as well, like
mm.
trying to find like if somebody's wearing something that you also like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we're now I'd like to talk about the same kind of thing and how did you find kind of like making friends and being in social situations? And yeah, I'd love to kind of know your experiences with that.
That's a really good point about like finding people that way. Like yeah, like if you can like signal to people like through your clothing or something like that, like we were talking about before, um uh that you're like into a thing,
Mm,
it's like an icebreaker that doesn't require conversation. It's really, really useful. Um yeah, how did I find making friends and dealing with social situations, is it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um I mean, I've always found like socializing. I've always done like quite a bit of it. But it's challenging because I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Um, there are a ton of rules that I don't understand at
And where
all.
are they? Who wrote
Who
them?
wrote them? And let me find them.
Where's the PDF?
Exactly. I don't got that. So there's a ton of like situations that I find myself that I've always found myself in situations like that, like when I'm talking to people that I don't 100% get. So the way I deal with that is just being like very literal. And some of that is like just that's just the way I am. So like sometimes people will make jokes or something that I don't pick up on. And like I find like to deal with that, I just like making fun of myself is a pretty good way of doing that. If I'm like, haha, we're all joking because I think, yeah, cool, like then the joke isn't like on you. Um, but I some of it is like is intentional. Sometimes I will take something literally because a lot of the world doesn't necessarily make sense to me. And so I would rather assume that somebody is telling the truth when they're saying something, even if it's like a little bit outlandish, than like have me misunderstand what's happening. Um, and yeah, so that's one. That's a challenge, but I think also it can be helpful because if you just take everyone at base level, then less misunderstanding happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, a part of that is like when I'm in a conversation with someone, like I can't always tell, like a vibe change will happen, and I can tell that a change has occurred, but I can't tell like what has happened, if that makes sense. So in that kind of situation, where like let's for example say I've just upset someone with something that I've said. Um, I can usually tell that a change has happened, but not necessarily that that person is upset from the thing that I've said. Um, so what I will do is I will just ask, and that can be kind of like cringy at the bit like
Mm.
when you're first learning to do that, and then this is you don't have to. This is just the way I deal with it. Um, I just ask a ton of questions all the time. Whenever I'm unsure about how somebody else is feeling, whether I'm unsure about like whether somebody's understood something that I've said correctly, I'll just ask them. And the important or like, if like somebody said something and then like I trail off and I'm thinking of something else in my head, they've said like a word and then suddenly I'm saying things and I've realized I haven't been listening for like the last minute. I'll just be like, I'm so sorry. I zoned out like X ago. And although your assumption is that that's a rude thing to do, you know, I think if like for me, it's all about intention. If you communicate like the no, I'm bringing this up because I really want to pay attention to you, and now I'm going to lock in and like really lock into what you're saying. It almost always pays off well. Like everybody's so like in my life at least is so receptive
Mm.
to me asking questions because it really means that I'm paying attention, and people love it when you pay attention to them. So yeah, it might be awkward to start at first, but I am a big fan of questions. Whenever you're unsure about a social situation, just ask it. Like, and then that makes the anxiety that's building in your own head about like a social setting way less because you give that a voice. It's
Mm.
not just something that you're like pushing down inside. Um, yeah, that's my number one like social life hack.
One thing actually, like
Mhm,
there have been some times where I have asked questions in a social
mhm,
situation, and then you'll have somebody be like, "Oh my God, me too. I was wondering
mhm.
if like," and that again, that's like a kind of life hack to possibly making a friend, but it's also about making yourself feel comfortable.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's being like an advocate for yourself.
yeah,
And it's again, it's tricky, but like if you're kind of trying to find spaces where you want to feel comfortable and be in those spaces, then that's how you kind of start making them.
yeah,
In the chat, I can see some people also saying they love being social, but it's so hard to keep track of the rules.
yeah,
And yeah, I think trying to make things easier for yourself rather than trying to conform is the one of the only ways to do it, like asking those questions rather than then going home and lying down and being like, oh God, what did I say?
yeah. Being in the
That
shower the next
helps.
day and being like, "What?"
I have to message everyone and tell them I'm sorry for
Yeah,
existing.
yeah,
It's so tricky, but it is, yeah, it's about kind of trying to make ourselves feel comfortable
mm,
rather than being like, okay, this is what everybody else is doing. I'm struggling with it, but I'm gonna have to just keep pushing on for
mm.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's such a good point as well. Maybe like that just made me think like you setting like being the example and like asking those questions or whatever and setting that like precedent in a conversation and other people like because that's happened so many times people will be like I'll ask something somebody will say like oh you can do that in a conversation like oh I'm sorry I wasn't listening or whatever in a nicer way than that but
Hmm.
can you please repeat it and then like if you do that enough and you have like a social circle you'll find that like the practices that you make socially will then influence other people and then that becomes like an accepted norm and then suddenly you've created like a social culture that like people subscribe to that is like that work is good for you and everyone around you which I just think is wonderful.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, definitely. Um, the post-social event rumination is real. You're so right. Sorry, I have noticed the time and we
Okay.
are kind of not running behind, but you
Okay.
know, it's so if anybody wants to like ask some questions in the chat, we'll continue talking and try and like get to them at the same time.
Hmm.
Earlier I saw someone ask, how did you find secondary school and what were your favorite subjects?
Hmm.
If you want to briefly talk about that, go for it.
Yeah. How I found secondary school. Secondary school was quite difficult for me. Um, it like it was really good for like discovering like the things that I was like super into, like picking subjects like IT and like history and like media and stuff like that. Like really, really helped me explore parts of my interests that I was like, yeah, that then went on to influence what I did later.
Mm,
But yeah, secondary was challenging like socially, and a lot of the things that I was talking about were like lessons that I learned in secondary, like figuring out how to navigate that. But I've made like a lot of my like long like term friends in secondary, so yeah.
yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely. I feel like now I've started speaking to more people from secondary school, but I did find it difficult while I was in the moment because you're
Mm,
also trying to figure yourself out. Everybody's figuring themselves out.
yeah,
It's so many things going
yeah.
on. Another question I have is, did you stay at home for uni or did you manage to go?
I went, and really it depends on like what your circumstances are. For me, I was in a situation where I was like I didn't go outside a lot. Like I'd started to develop it's called agoraphobia. It's like a fear of
Hmm.
going outside. And so I was in like a space where uni was like a really good opportunity for me to like get out of my shell and kind of like kickstart like adult life. I didn't really go to uni necessarily just for the subject I was doing, but more like a safe space so that I could like launch my adulting stuff later. So for me, I went and I had financial support from student finance, which is like if you don't have the financial backing for it, they can help you out with that.
Shout out.
Shout out student finance, thanks for the money. Yeah, I went to study. I studied in Portsmouth. I live there
Hmm.
now currently.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I feel like uni definitely for me as well, it helped kind of kickstart my kind of
Yeah.
socialness. It did get tricky at times and especially with the pandemic, but
Mm,
it definitely was a way for me to kind of be myself the most, I think,
yeah.
because you could find so many other people in clubs
Yep.
and kind of like even just going off vibes,
Hmm.
chats as well. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I found it very useful as
Mm. It's
that.
a place. It's a place people go because they're into the same things as you, right? So it's like a great place to make friends. It's really, really good.
100%. Even just yeah, the subjects as well. That's like at least you'll at least find like three people maybe
Oh
who
yeah.
are completely your vibe. Some of the others I was like,
Oh
um,
yeah, sure. That's life.
kind of going off that, in terms of like continuing to kind of do what you love to do. Um, was there someone or something that inspired you to kind of follow your passions? I know that you mentioned kind of like
Mm,
some teachers, kind of the way that
mm.
they helped you kind of influenced you in some way or
Yeah.
nurtured something. I don't want to say influence, nurtured.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely some teachers. Had a history teacher called Mr. Hughes, who was a legend. Shout out Mr. Hughes. Um, but yeah, I'm really, really influenced by people in my life. I have like there's a group of people in my life that I consider to be like North Star people, like people that I sort of like aspire towards. People like Ollie from Uncommon, shout out
Shout out.
Ollie, shout out. But family members, good friends, people who like inspire me both like on what they're doing, but also just as people that have like quality, like moral qualities that I aspire to, or whatever. And those people aren't all like real. They're real to me, but some of those North Star people are fictional characters that I really really attached to. And like I'm like, what would Goku do? Not It's not Goku, but that's a good example. If you
When
Goku
in
was even though,
doubt, what would
what would
Goku
Goku
do?
do? Um, uh, but yeah, and I find that when I'm pursuing when I'm pursuing anything, not just my passions, but when I'm pursuing something, if I have like a group of people that around me that I really respect and admire, um, and they influence or represent something in myself that I want to nurture, that like anywhere that I look towards for influence, I'm going the right way, you know? And no matter where I am going, I'm always going in the direction that's right for me because the people around me are all good. um,
Mm.
and I don't concern myself too much with like long term, like where am I going to be in X years, you know, like this is my specific, this is where I have to go. I just move in a direction that I feel is right for me based off of the influences around me. And because I have such a wonderful group of people that I love and admire, it works out. It works out. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I look up to characters, my imagination too. Yeah, yeah. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like I really like the way you put it as kind of North Star people, because it is so, like you're made up of all the people that you kind of have the closest to you.
hmm
And I feel like sometimes it's to start with, it might be difficult to kind of figure out who that is. But for me, I kind of pick up some mannerisms from people that I admire, or like
Yeah.
certain phrases. Like sometimes if me and one of my best friends is in the same room, people are like, "You talk exactly the same. What's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on?" And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Yes, I know." Yeah, I think it's something to like nurture you in some sort of way.
yeah,
Again, it's making you feel comfortable as well, listening to your body.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that's such a lovely, beautiful way of putting it.
Mm,
And I can also relate to make having some fictional characters to look
mm.
up to for that as well.
I,
Yeah,
I,
sorry, carry on.
I just saw in chat, James White was saying that he finds it hard to relate to people. They find it hard to relate to people their age, and often they find adults to be easier to talk to because they're more understanding. And yeah, me too. I had the same thing. I had the same thing. It's really, really common. And but like there are other people out there who like have the exact same perspective as you.
Mhm.
And like it just means you will find your people eventually, you know. Don't give up. It will happen. And yeah, just be aware that you're not in it alone. There are other people who think the exact same way as you.
Yeah, and like we said, it's surprising to see how many people, and often it is kind of like a grouping thing where
hmm
suddenly you find other people.
Yeah.
One question that's come up in the Q&A section that I find is quite interesting and kind of leads into some of the other things is
hmm
can you talk more about your special interest in D&D and the groups you run outside of Common Uncommon?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, okay. I love a lot of things. There are a ton of things that like I was saying with like fictional characters as well. There are pieces of media that I consider to be like foundational to who I am. Those things, those influences have like built me up as a person, like building blocks. There are games, movies, shows that like have taught me lessons that have changed who I am for the better. Um, and yeah, and it just like media means like a lot to me, and just story in general. Um, things that I'm into. I'm running a workshop on Thursday. Anybody who wants to come down for world building. World building is awesome. In a chaotic world that often does not make a lot of sense. World building is a way to creating fictional worlds with rules that can be understood is a fantastic way to both like express yourself and also understand the world around you. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I love it, and it's useful in like a bunch of different formats. D&D is another one. I absolutely love D&D. D&D kind of like, and TTRPGs in general, tabletop role playing games, kind of return to like um the human history of gathering around a fire and like collaboratively telling stories, but it adds the element of like there are rules and the structure to how we do it, which is amazing because it means that like when you're playing like a game with your friends when you're younger or whatever, and you're like, okay, I have like, like I shoot a laser, I have a force field or whatever, like things like that happen, and it can cause like conflict in TTRPGs. That doesn't happen as much because everybody has a shared understanding of rules, and that's what I love about games in general.
Mhm.
um I forgot what we were talking about because I got excited about D&D.
That is completely fine. Let me
Oh, what
think.
is world building? World building is just the act of creating a fictional world. It's just like designing a fictional world. So like if you've ever like thought about like, oh, this would be like a really cool like setting or story or something, that's world building.
I've put in the chat the link. I don't know whether it might work, but the link to the world building session. So if you guys are interested, feel free to go because it would be very fun. It's at 4 p.m. on Thursday, shout out. And just to kind of finish off the question, kind of with your kind of special interests like
Mhm.
D&D, how did it kind of inspire you to work for Uncommon?
I think that Uncommon is a place that celebrates the exact kind of differences that we've been talking about and the things that we're passionate about. When I would have done anything for a space like the one that I feel like I'm a part of now in Uncommon. When I was younger, I think that celebrating inclusivity and uh yeah, just giving people a breathing space to be their authentic selves and figure out like the things they're passionate about and learn a bit about themselves and other people and the things that they like around them is magical. And yeah, it's kind of like what I'm all about. The whole reason why I love like making games and like designing in general is so that I can have that effect that I talked about of learning and becoming a better person from media to other people, so I can give that back. And my like working at Uncommon is just a direct way of doing that. And yeah, I'm loving every day.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I just remembered one thing that you kind of mentioned beforehand is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like with your world building and D&D and stuff, it's being able to explore things, having some rules, but not having like the unspoken rules.
Mm.
And I think that's so useful again with film, with books, media, games, anything, learning about the world and feeling safe about it
Yeah.
is definitely such a
Yes.
fun way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you attach yourself to fiction, right? Like that's how I learned so much about myself through fictional characters, both like seeing them, like making them in my head, writing it down. Yeah, and the world around you. I think that like most of the important lessons I've learned, and not most of, but a
Mm.
lot of the important lessons that I've learned in life have been through the things that I consume and do and interact with.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we are kind of reaching the end of this webinar. So we'll continue talking a little bit. And in the meantime, if anyone has any kind of last minute questions, go for it. It can be anything. Um, I would like to kind of touch upon maybe some advice that you might have for the people listening, watching, in terms of kind of like you've spoken about like your passions. What advice would you give to people kind of trying to find what they're good at?
Find what they're good at. Um, I don't know if you guys in the chat have been tuning into the other role model sessions, but Meccan said something. Shout out to Meccan. In theirs that really stuck with me that I really resonated with. That being good at things is overrated. And I heard that and I was like, absolutely, absolutely, because you get like so paralyzed by not being good at something when trying to get into it, and the important act is just doing something that I like fall into the trap of all the time is like, I'm like a really creative person. I said before, and I like kind of like need to make things in order to like not go crazy. But
Hmm.
it's just something that I do all the time. I'm like always doodling or whatever. And for a long time, I didn't do creative things because I had this idea in my head that everything that I was doing had to be for like some grander purpose, like for a job I want to apply for, or like for uni or whatever. And so um I think that's like making something for a purpose is good, but the important part is just making something. So if you're doing something like because you just enjoy it, and like you're like, oh, I need to be, this needs to be for like a grander purpose, I think that's actually the best possible outcome. Like if you're doing something just for the love of doing it and like there is no like grander project or purpose that you're like putting it towards, I think that's amazing because that's only going to build your skill set in that thing, and then you can use that like in like a bunch of different opportunities, um uh there's a video game called Fury that I really really like, and there's a character in it, a boss in it, who says excellent is not an art, it's pure habit. We are what we repeatedly do. And
Mm.
I think it's very true. It's a line that goes really, really hard. I think it's absolutely
I
valid.
just love the like idea of him saying it while something is happening. It's not like, or like he
Yeah.
just stops the battle for a sec just to like drop that line and continue like fighting.
Yeah. No, he straight up does. He straight up does. He like the whole time he's just like bigging you up while you're fighting him. It's great. Because he wants
Mhm.
like a challenge. Um yeah, I think yeah. Also just like surround yourself. I keep on harping on the same thing, but surround yourself if with people who you think highly of and think highly of you, because that will become opportunities in the future. Like I'm working at Uncommon because of the people around me, and yeah, things come up, and you
Mm.
need to take them. But yeah, just do a lot of things. Be interested in things, and do them, and don't not do them because you're worried about what other people will think of you. Do it for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It's about trying to fit in with yourself, like
Mm.
fit your what you are and who you are rather than trying to force yourself to fit into other spaces. Sorry, I was a bit distracted by how many questions we have, so I thought that we'd kind of go into them.
Yeah.
We will go over by a little bit, so if you guys anybody needs to leave, then that's totally fine. But yes, so let us start with we have one where I feel like you can give a little bit of like your own personal experience, not
Hmm.
like advice so much.
Yeah.
So somebody's asked if you have been diagnosed with one like neurodiversity,
Mm.
for example, like ADHD, autism, is it possible to it is possible to get assessed for another one, but is
Mm.
it kind of for you, you say that you're now
Mm.
seeking an autism diagnosis.
Mm.
What has been kind of like your thought process behind trying to get that as well as your ADHD one?
Do you mean like what's the utility of it? Like what's the benefit of it? Or do you mean like what's my experience been like with it?
I guess, yeah, what I like personally, what's been your experience with it? Like why have you been finding that useful as a kind of road to go down?
I think it just comes down to understanding yourself more. I think the better understanding you have of yourself, like knowledge is power, and the better understanding that you have of yourself, the better you can like um one like accept yourself, um two like adjust your lifestyle and choices to like work for you more. If you have more, there's a bunch of information on like neurodivergent brains and how they work, and the more you can apply to yourself, and just like in general, like with most like diagnosis and stuff, the more like you can see the common traits and like understand like the kind of like reasoning why they are the way they are or whatever, the easier it is for you to like move forward. I think that like that's like my motivation behind it. I think also it's like useful for like work stuff, like which is a boring answer, but like being able to give somebody like a document that says like I am this, therefore like please give me these accommodations,
Mm.
is very very useful. But yeah, my personal experience with like I'm doing it through the NHS, so it takes a while. You might have heard that from other people, but yeah, that's the kind of like that's the reasoning behind it. I think it's very very useful.
Yeah, definitely. Like we're not experts, but like I
Yeah,
said kind of
exactly.
earlier, is giving you a shorthand about
Yeah.
yourself to be able to be like, how do I do why do I do this, and how can I help myself? How can I help other people understand myself at the same time?
Mhm.
Um, okay, so you mentioned that you have kind of North Star fictional characters that have
Yeah.
inspired you. Which character or like show has had the greatest effect on your growth?
That's an impossible answer. That's an impossible question. There's too
Top
many. There's
five.
absolutely too many. Okay, so I really, really like Undertale. Undertale's an amazing video game. Play it if you haven't played it. I think it's like PG. I'm pretty sure it's like maybe it's a 12. It's good. But it's the main character. Uh, the main character in Undertale is kind of like a blank slate, but the whole like purpose of Undertale is like treating people with kindness and like finding like non violent solutions to things and understanding people better. And so I think that's amazing. And there are characters under like Toriel, who's like this kindly tutorial character, who I really really resonate with. You'll notice a pattern. Anybody who's seen My Hero Academia, Izuku Midoriya, Deku, he's like a nice guy who wants to be a superhero, but he doesn't have any powers. Um, and I just like morally and stuff, I really really align with him and his like sort of can-do attitude. Naruto when I was younger, Naruto was a big one. I really like anime, just in general. Uh, I like Ted Lasso. If anyone's ever
Oh,
seen, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Such a good show. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I could go on and on and on and on. But there are just a lot of characters that have really um like taught me lessons about the kind of person that I want to be. I didn't
Mm.
go into it very much, but yeah, there was a time in my life where because I was like masking for a really long time, that I kind of like lost sense of who I was for a bit, and I had to kind of like intentionally build myself, like my idea of myself again, and looking to like fictional characters and real people was a really good, and like what things I liked about them was a really good way for me to like learn about the person that I wanted to become.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's a great way to kind of, for me anyway, I sometimes struggle with like, what do I actually like? It's masking.
Mm-hmm.
And having those sort of kind of figureheads where I can also kind of a lot of the time see into their personal lives and like how they deal with different
Yeah.
situations and stuff. It definitely helps me kind of uh streamline myself in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. So we have two more questions,
Okay.
both of which are to do kind of with world building.
Ooh, okay.
So I feel like a lot of this you can probably touch more upon in your Thursday session at 4 p.m. Um,
Be
but
there.
somebody is kind of asking more clarification on like what world building is. Like, is it just drawing the world,
Mm-hmm.
like your idea for the world? What is world building?
The very, very boring answer is all of it. Yes. Well, yeah, world building is like a really, really broad term that captures like a ton. Um, it can be world building can be like designing like a whole fictional world or a universe with like a bunch of different rules or whatever for whatever like purpose you want. Like it could be for like D&D type stuff, it could be for like a game, book, etc etc etc. But it can also be like like a coffee shop, like it's whatever the encapsulate like whatever the setting of a story is. World building is fleshing out that stuff. It's like politics, like figuring out the politics or something. It's like physics in some cases, like it's I'll go to it into it more in the Thursday session, but generally speaking, it's just the process of envisioning, and that could be like drawing. I'm not like the best artist, but like I do a lot of sketching when I'm doing world building. It could be like map making. It can just be like writing it down. Yeah,
Is
it
it
encapsulates all those
also
things.
kind of like characters, or is
Oh
that
yeah,
then a separate? Okay, cool, cool, cool.
yeah. I mean, like um, Yeah, it can be. It's just the general like setting of the thing. So like some characters are like key important figures in like history and stuff like that. So like that's part of like establishing history of a setting and stuff. You might have like important figureheads, but yeah. Sorry, I rambled.
No, no, it's fine. In the chat, somebody's asking whether anybody's heard of World Anvil.
Yeah. World Anvil is awesome. I haven't used it a ton, but I have looked into it. I think it's like a subscription thing. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
But yeah, that's an excellent tool, and there's a ton of really good ones. There's some good free ones as well.
Lovely. Okay. And to kind of finish off before we wrap up, and I feel like this question is a bit difficult because it's so broad, but do you have any quick games design tips? Maybe maybe thinking about in terms of like maybe world building, if you can bring that in any way. I know it's a tricky one because it's so vast.
Okay, world building, games design.
You don't have to, but I was trying to find some way to
No, it's
like,
cool. It's yeah, it said limit the scope. Yeah, I get
mm,
you. Um, so okay, yeah. So when you're making like a setting for a game, um, I think it's really important to consider like what the gameplay you want is, like what the kind of like general experience you want to go for is, like what's the genre, like what are the mechanics and stuff, and then making the world fit that purpose. Doing it the other way around is possible, and like that is a good way to start. In some cases, but like I think that world building is a really, really good opportunity to communicate aspects of your story that are like at the core of the story. So if your world can serve the story instead of like the story serving the world, in the case of like if you're making a game, I think that's ideal. Like I think of games like even so like Mario, like Super Mario Brothers, whatever. Like from like a lore, like world perspective, that setting makes no sense. It's crazy. It's absolutely insanity. But like those are all things that naturally came out of like the gameplay, and it kind of
mm,
works. So like yeah, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. If you're world building for a game, uh do it to encourage the things that you think are most enjoyable about the setting thing.
yeah, no, that's such a good point. I don't know much about game design, but I think that's pretty cool. Um, so one final question, and it is kind of more so about you, I guess.
Okay.
Um, so somebody's asked kind of whether you were able to game a lot as a kid, as they aren't able to, and I guess how you also mentioned that you have a vivid imagination and
Mm.
like taking things apart, so I guess as they can't play many games, what kind of suggestions do you have for them?
Hmm. Um, yes, I was allowed to play a lot of games as a kid. Do I think that was good? No. No, I do not. And it's one of those very boring, like adult, it makes me sound like I don't get where you're coming from, but trust me, I do.
That's me with
I
Pokemon under my pillow.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, got the Game Boy booting up at night. Yeah, I was allowed to play a lot of games when I was younger, and I think that when the brain is developing, it's not very good at like regulating itself, and I think that like um that kind of had some negative consequences as I got older that I had to like learn to deal with. So I think
It's like dopamine, like really
yeah,
quick. Yeah.
instant dopamine fixes. Yeah. So I was able to play a lot of games when I was younger. Not like age inappropriate games, which I think was really really good. But yeah, I did have a lot of access to it. What advice would I give to you if you're not able to play a lot of games? Like try and understand where whoever the person in your life or whatever whoever your garden is, where they're coming from with it, because their intentions like are good. Um, it sucks in the moment, and like when you get older, you'll be able to like have more direct control over what you're doing in your free time and stuff. But I mean, when it comes to like designing games and stuff, and like making games and making cool stuff, the broader like range of experiences you have in life, like the more you have to pull from. And so like the best designers and like the best like creatives and stuff aren't just pulling from games, even though they love games. They obviously love games. Like they're pulling from like all of their life experiences. And the more life experiences you have, like the better the things that you can like put out are. Because they're just more informed. And so like it is kind of an opportunity. Like I can't play games all the time. As an adult, I gotta work. I gotta
It's
do
so
I gotta do
hard.
a job.
Yeah.
But like the times that I do spend gaming, I love because it's not constant, you know? um so yeah, my advice would be to appreciate like those the freedom you are given when you can,
Mhm.
or try to. And I know that's a bit of a cop out answer. But uh yeah, try and fill up that game time with other things. And if there's like clubs and activities or whatever, I'm sure that your guardian would
Uncommon. Let's go.
uncommon, exactly. Yeah. Hit with the uncommon community space. And get working on some challenges. Yeah, that would be my advice. Understanding and try and fill that time with other things.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't remember whether we touched upon it or not.
Mm,
But finding other things that give you joy in the same way,
yeah,
which is tricky. But
yeah.
like you said, drawing, I like singing. That's completely fine if people need to go, by the way, because we have gone on longer than intended, but it's been very good and I've been really enjoying it.
Sorry, I was
So
yapping towards the end
no,
there.
no, no. Honestly, it's been really cool to like learn about you, and I feel like a lot of people would agree with me. But yes, so we will finish up here. Um, so just to kind of do some housekeeping, I guess. This Thursday, like we mentioned, is Elliot's world building workshop at 4 p.m. And we've spoken a bit about what that is. So if you're interested, feel free to RSVP and Elliot will see you there. Um, Next week we have another role model talk with VJ on Tuesday at 4 p.m. and that will be talking to like an artist and his experiences and like how he's used his art and stuff like that. And most of all, I wanted to say thank you everyone for joining us today and hearing about our things and Elliot's journey and some of my own. I hope you're managing to stay cool in the heat and we'll see you in the community. And feel free to carry on some of these conversations there because I'd love to see them. And I think you can at one of us as well if you have any further questions. So feel free to do so. But yes, thank you everyone and we'll see you next time. Oh,
Bye, everyone.
bye.